Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. Going to have a look at the next week's 10 days in today's video, but we're going to start off by having a look at the thunderstorm potential for this afternoon. Quite a complicated one today. There is the potential for storms, but just whether they pop off, we've got to wait and see. There's a lot of cloud, but keeping the temperatures a bit lower than expected. If the cloud breaks, it should allow the sun to lift the temperatures, and that should increase the humidity and the risk of thunderstorms this afternoon. But I'll show you what's going on in a second. Before I get on with that, just to say about the ads at GazWeatherViz, there's links to articles on all of the pages. As you can have a browse through the widgets and click through the links, you'll be helping us to pay for the website. Thanks so much for doing that. This video ads on most of the pages, which open up content, and when you watch them, they close back up again. It does all help to pay for GazWeatherVids.com. So, starting off with a radar picture from the Weather Outlook. Now, we had some thunderstorms across East Anglia earlier this morning. They've generally gone off into the North Sea now. That vibrant, bright yellow and red area heading off screen or off radar into the North Sea. We've got showery rain developing through parts of Wales and some southwestern and southern parts of England. That isn't producing thunder yet. Have a look at the lightning detector. We can see where the lightning flashes are. So there's that cluster that we had across East Anglia this morning. That's gone off into the North Sea. The rain that's down across the southwest is not yet producing any lightning. It's just generally showering, fairly lightish rain going on down there. That's where we've got our weather front. That's sort of the dividing line between the warm, humid conditions from the south, the hot, humid conditions from the south, and the cooler air up to the north. I think over the course of this afternoon, we probably will find this reinvigorating. I think there will be heavy thundery rain developing this afternoon. Whether it produces lightning and thunder, I'm not sure. This website is quite interesting. It's the Estofex website, and that stands for the European Storm Forecast Experiment website. They look at the probability of the storms through the day and issue warnings. And a very in-depth report, actually. I've got this on the links page, a link to this, just put on the links page. They issue a very extended synopsis and discussion about what's going on, not just in the UK, but across Europe in terms of the thunderstorm potential. I haven't got time to go through all of that for today's video, but essentially they are placing the risk of severe thunderstorms. We've got a level 1 risk of severe thunderstorms today across England and Wales, particularly within this sort of orange boundary just here. So it actually extends from northern France up towards parts of Sweden, and it does encompass England and Wales as well. A level 1 warning gives about 5% chance of severe weather, I believe. They do go on to explain, however, that there are complications with this, so it's not a done deal that we're going to get these severe storms this afternoon across England and Wales, but just that the potential is there. The UK Met Office have also issued severe weather warnings. Now, of course, at GazWeatherViz we don't issue severe weather warnings because I'm not qualified to do that. The UK Met Office is the place to go if you need advice about the weather in terms of severe weather warnings. They've issued weather alerts, so not yet have warnings, but have got alerts, and they're suggesting in this hatch yellow area just here, which is really from northern England through the Midlands in towards parts of southeast England, central southern England and South Wales, that there is the potential for some thunderstorms this afternoon. Some big rainfall totals are possible. And it's going to be a case of watch this space. I think there is potential this afternoon for thunderstorms, but quite where, quite how widespread, and whether they really get going, we're going to have to wait and see. Just going to depend on how much the temperature can lift up this afternoon. But I think there's certainly be some heavy rain developing this afternoon. Whether it contains lightning and thunder, going to have to wait and see. If things do pop off, I'll probably update Stormwatch for you this evening. Right, let's get on with the weather for next week to 10 days, and we start off with 500 bit of our height anomaly flowchart. We've got discrepancy this morning between the ECMWF, and that is the ECM on the top, and the GFS, which is on the bottom. We'll have a look at that in a moment. 500 millibars, 8,000 feet, is an area in the atmosphere, high pressure, low pressure, are being moved around by a jet stream running above. Blue extrapolates to low pressure, orange and red extrapolates to high pressure. These are mean flowcharts taking us out to 10 days, which is up to the 5th of September. Now, the ECMWF is placing a ridge very close to us during the next week to 10 days, and the trough remains out in the Atlantic. Now, a couple of days ago, the idea was that the Atlantic, during the early part of September particularly, was going to roll in and produce quite an unsettled spell of weather. The ECMWF is delaying that now, and it places us still really within and under a ridge of high pressure. So it keeps a jet stream to the north, it keeps a flow going generally from the south-southeast, so that would remain fairly dry and very warm as we go through into the start of September. However, the GFS is different. It's much more unsettled. This is the 500 millibar height anomaly from the GFS. Deep trough of low pressure to the north of Scandinavia, and the main thing is that the jet stream is just coming through the country like that, indicated by those lines. The area of above average heights that the ECMWF has, really strong, sitting just to our east, is much further east across eastern, southeastern parts of Europe, and it's just a much more unsettled scenario. I think you can see that quite clearly with the tight lines coming in off the Atlantic, indicating pretty unsettled conditions. Notice these little dips within the lines. I would think those are tropical features, so it does look as though the tropics are really getting going over the next week to 10 days, and there's likely to be hurricanes winding themselves up in the tropical part of the Atlantic, which is always going to cause the models lots and lots of confusion. I explain this every year around this time of year, where we're getting hurricanes going through the tropical Atlantic. The models really struggle to place the movement and the direction and the intensity of these storms and hurricanes. And of course, everything in terms of the weather across the whole world is really interlinked. So if you've got huge uncertainty through the tropical part of the Atlantic Ocean downstream or upstream, whichever way you want to look at it, it has a knock-on effect in terms of the reliability of the models. So it's always an uncertain time of year, this late August into September, when we've got these tropical features. It does look as though we're going to have a bigger hurricane season though this year, and that was anticipated because the Atlantic is much warmer this year than it has been for any year back to 2012. So I think we're probably going to have the biggest hurricane season this year that we've had for quite a few years, probably back to 2012. The GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles the next 2 weeks are looking like this. The red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average, so we're still very warm, if not hot, in terms of those upper air temperatures right now. They do dip down, as we've been saying, as we go through into the weekend, going to turn cooler. Getting to next week, this is the 1st of September just here, which I think is next Thursday, a week today. Might be wrong about that, but I think it's a week today. We find that the temperatures actually lift up a little bit, not going back to this high level we've got at the moment, but generally just above average, above the 30-year temperature average through to the start of September. The precipitation spikes show that we've got some rain coming up over the next few days, so this is associated with days thundery stuff. Generally the thunder is north and east of London, and this is the ensemble for London. Greater risk of rain or storms perhaps on Saturday down in the southeast, then a fair amount of dry weather through the rest of the bank holiday weekend and into next week before the rainfall spikes start to come back very gradually and not definitively, but they do start to come back through that first week of September. However, the ensemble for Manchester looks much wetter, so greater risk of thunderstorms in Manchester today. Some rain up in the north of England over the weekend as well, and then generally just more and more unsettled as we go through the course of next week. That is how the GFS is seeing things, but remember, ECMWF is a lot drier for next week. Temperature anomalies for the next week, 25th of August through 2nd of September. September, coming out warmer than average. Also drier than average from the 25th of August through to the 2nd of September through most parts of the country. But we have got thunderstorms though, so the idea with that is that they're hit and miss. Some places within this area that does look significantly drier than average could actually come out wetter than average. But of course, the model can't see that. It's just placing drier than average conditions across most parts of the UK. But within that, there is variability due to thunderstorms. So just having a look at the generic charts, this is the GFS, the Bank Holiday Monday, and what we see there is that we've got a ridge of high pressure building in off the Atlantic Ocean from the southwest. So I think we'll have quite a bit of rain around on Saturday, particularly in the southeast. That should clear away. I mean, it should slowly dry up through the course of the Bank Holiday weekend. So by Monday, it could be okay. We get through into Tuesday, still largely under a ridge of high pressure, but then on Wednesday, it starts to move back ridge away to the east. This is where we're differing from what the ECMWF is doing. I'll show the ECM in a moment, but the GFS wants to move that ridge in Central Eastern Europe on Wednesday, 31st of August, and start to move this low pressure in off the Atlantic, which would bring cloud and rain to the north and west. I mean, it turns more unsettled through the latter stage of next week. So this is Thursday, the 3rd of September. I was right about that. 3rd of September is a week today. And we bring low pressure in then across the Atlantic. That could bring rain even down into the south of the country. Just turns more unsettled then as we go through the first weekend of September. Here comes the remains of ex-Hurricane Gaston as a very deep area of low pressure. That's moving into the southwest of us on Saturday the 3rd of September. And look at this as we go through into the end of Saturday the 3rd and on into Sunday the 4th of September, which is day 10. That area of low pressure moves right in across the country. It's a really deep autumnal storm. Remember, that is the remains of Hurricane Gaston. How this storm is moving in is probably one of the elements that's creating a lot of the confusion, because that is the movement that the GFS wants to do with this storm from Friday. It's out in the central part of the Atlantic as a very, very intense area of low pressure, and it just directly hits us as we go through the weekend of the 3rd and the 4th of September. That will bring a lot of heavy rain, will bring gales or severe gale force winds. However, the ECMWF is very, very different. So here we are for Monday. Again, Bank Holiday Monday shows the ridge trying to build in off the Atlantic. There's probably a bit of a trough, though, over the country. So that could still keep things a little bit showery into Bank Holiday Monday. But by Tuesday, we're back under that ridge from the Azores high. Wednesday shows the ridge beginning to weaken a little bit, starting to allow low pressure to come in to the north and the west of the country. But the high pressure sort of hangs on, actually. As we go through to the end of next week, we're still generally within a ridge. There is the remains of Hurricane Gaston on Friday the 2nd of September. We are still within this ridge of high pressure, keeping the Atlantic winds largely at bay. Very different to what the GFS is doing at this point. As we go through the weekend of the 2nd, the 3rd, 4th of September, what happens is that the remains of Hurricane Gaston just sort of stall really around the Azores. It's that area of low pressure just there, which keeps us under this ridge of high pressure, and that keeps the air coming in from the south, southeast, so it would remain warm and mostly dry up to that point. This is probably another tropical feature that we see here around Newfoundland. The Atlantic is ramping up. Eventually, one of these storms is probably going to break through and break down this high pressure. But the ECM, up to day 10 anyway, keeps it largely settled through the course of next week. So a big discrepancy now in terms of the early part of September. Will we get this direct hit from ex-Hurricane Gaston, as the GFS wants to do, or will that storm stall in the Atlantic and just promote and allow high pressure to continue around the UK and much of Europe. If that happens, it's going to be a very warm and mostly dry start to September. So quite interesting what's happening there. And of course, the interest in the shorter time frame is in terms of these thunderstorms through the course of this afternoon. A lot to be keeping an eye on. So keep your eye on the radar picture from the weatheroutlook.com. See whether those storms get going this afternoon. If they do, we'll almost certainly update Stormwatch later on. Right, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.